Ayubowan Buddha Saranai. Today we have gathered here on behalf of our Vishwaprani Spiritual Healing Community to present you our basic spiritual concept and their day-to-day usage in our day-to-day life. So first of all, let us introduce you basic principles in Vishwaprani philosophy. Bhagya, could you please introduce us the basic concepts in our Vishwaprani philosophy?
Thank you, Shamila. There are 5 principles of Vishwaprani Spiritual Healing Community. The first principle is spirituality is a personal understanding of the reality of the world. The second principle is the person is a creation of the 5 senses. The third principle, world is a creation of the mind. Fourth principle is the human being relative to the world and the world relative to the human being is a consciousness movement. And the fifth principle is the world is empty. Those are the main 5 principles of our Vishwaprani Spiritual Healing Community. First of all, I will explain and give you a brief introduction of the first principle, which is the spirituality is the understanding of a personal level of the reality of the world. Actually, person's understanding, spirituality is the understanding of a person's self or the reality of the world. When you talk about a person's self, it's the 5 senses. We basically take the 5 senses of the person which creates the perception of a person. We think that there is a person within us. We think that there is a self. With that, we think that there is a world within us. So the 5 senses which creates this perception creates a self inside us. Creates a world inside us.
So Hareendra, do you have any idea regarding the self?
Actually, if someone can say in one word, it means self.
So what do you mean by self, Hareendra?
Actually, self means if we are perfection or perfection something from 5 sense, that means self.
Actually, self is nothing. And self, even though that is what we say, but we feel that there is a person within us. We feel that there is a world. That is how we see that is through the 5 senses, the perceptions that we get through the 5 senses. So what Hareendra is telling is correct. Are there any other ideas any of you have, Rajitha?
Actually, it is indeed, self means nothing. But if someone is going to explain nothing, that is emptiness.
Yes.
Is there any?
Can the concept, can the word emptiness, can you elaborate
The word? Actually, now this is the final principle of Vishwaprani Spiritual Healing Community. But actually, that is the word which is very difficult to explain. Emptiness is just nothingness.
Actually, emptiness.
Yes. We
Yes.
cannot give a name.
Actually, emptiness means nothingness. It is, if someone is going to explain nothingness, it's a type of concept. It's such a concept. If is going to, if I am going to explain a concept, it's a concept. If it is a concept, it is another concept. No one, I think, if anyone is going to explain emptiness, it is nothing. Nothing means nothing.
I think you can't take it into words.
Yes, Darcy, I think you may have something to tell about our first principle.
Yes, correct. Although there are various definitions out there about the spirituality, as per the Vishwaprani philosophy, spirituality is the knowledge and the attitude that we have towards the reality of the world.
Yes, of course, yes.
Now let us talk about the second principle. That is, the person is the creation of the 5 senses. Actually, that in the first principle also we talked about the meaning, the reason, how the person is created. The first principle did talk about of the second principle also actually. But if anyone like to elaborate on that, the 5 senses and how the person is created?
Yes, Bhagya. Actually, what we live, what the actually but fulfillment of five senses mean living is actually our try to fulfill our five senses. So that's what I think the second principle says.
Actually, now, if I also make a few points on that, the principle, five senses, now when we have some sort of a trouble or something, we feel very sad, we feel very emotional. But we always try, in that case, we always try to solve that problem, solve those issues, so that we become happy inside ourselves and our five senses are always balanced. So we always move from one end to another end. To person is always moving from one extreme to another extreme. We in Sinhalese we say "Atha neta anta deka." So whenever we have some sort of a happiness or even a sadness, our senses get imbalanced. So we always try to balance those senses by trying to have that whatever a sadness or a illness. We always try to take medication and resolve those issues that we are having. Then actually, even though we are always getting into those two extreme lines, we will balance our five senses.
Isn't it balance? Isn't it imbalance create the person?
No, actually, I'll add some. I mean, the fulfillment of five senses, then that means it is balance. That fulfillment. If someone is going to fulfill his five senses, definitely he will reach the target. The target means emptiness. Emptiness. If someone is looking for emptiness, then he is going to. I mean, firstly he should fulfill his five senses. Then definitely he will achieve his target.
For an example, if someone is going through a difficult situation in life, maybe a breakdown mentally or is not fully settled. So, for an example, if we listen to me, we take the practical use of this. If we listen to music, and it's automatically
Calms us.
physically settled. So,
Yeah, that is a good way of.
we can explain.
Isn't it the imbalance create the human being? If everything is balanced, if all the senses are balanced, one reach the emptiness, isn't it?
Yes, in one sense you are correct, because now as Hareendra said firstly that self is nothing. Actually, self is emptiness, but we think that there is a self, that there is a world. So actually, that is an imbalance of reality that is creating the self. But in reality, reality which is the imbalance, we have to live in that here until we achieve our enlightenment or the understanding of this world. So until then, we have to balance our five senses. Either by listening to music, either traveling, you do your hobbies, you read. Also, you can go through illnesses, you take medication, things like that, and you have to balance it until we achieve our enlightenment, which is the understanding of the reality. So,
So do you think
one
that?
sense, you are correct.
So do you think that the equilibrium of five senses means the enlightenment?
No, it
Is
is.
it?
It is something like this. I mean, so if I tell, I mean something like this. If someone is trying to reach his target, I mean target means emptiness. It is, I mean, fulfillment of balance and imbalance of the humanity. I mean, balance and imbalance of the human beings. That is means fulfillment. I mean, if I can say like this, I mean.
I think Shamika also has
Yeah,
something.
Yes.
actually, I think our discussion has come to a good point now. So, Hareendra, so then, can you identify a normal person and a spiritual person in day-to-day life? I mean, are there any differences?
Yeah, actually, normal person, then he suffers. When the balance or imbalance, he suffers always. The spiritual man, he never suffers. I mean, when the time comes, he suffers. When the time comes, he get the pleasure. That's the spiritual.
For him, it is not a different. But for the person who is not spiritually empowered, is having difficulties when he goes through this, and he can get into a lot of emotional breakdowns and damage. So a spiritual person will be in that state until that situation is settled, but he goes on with his life. For him, whether it's the bad or the good,
he accepts everything as it is.
He accepts it as it is, and he does not give a value to the two perceptions that he is receiving.
I think spiritual person is more flowing.
Yes, he is on the flow.
He's dynamic, he never stuck. That's the spiritual. He's more fluid, he's more flowing.
Yes.
He never stuck, he goes as life goes.
He goes as life goes, yes.
Without reaching to
a big climax or get into big flames and stuff.
Clinical trigger.
Yeah, if someone is trying to say, I'm a spiritual, I'm a man who just like achieve my emptiness, is utterly abnormal.
Utterly abnormal, because he doesn't know whether he's achieved it or not. It's through these actions only we can see that.
Yes.
If you ask whether
actually you can easily find the people who in our community, those are abnormal.
Yes. If you ask that person, and if you ask him whether he's empty, and if he's saying when he's empty, then he has not really.
Yes, indeed. If someone is trying to explain his emptiness, I'm the man who's achieved my targets, he is nothing. He is abnormal.
At the same moment, someone is stating that I achieved emptiness, he's creating something state.
Yes.
Emptiness is not a state.
Stageless.
You can't take it to emotion.
Yes.
You can't take it to these 5 senses. It is not even 5 senses, and it's not beyond 5 senses. It's just nothing.
If it is something like this, if someone is facing ups and downs, he is mad. He is the one.
With this, now we will talk about the third principle, which is the world is a creation of the mind. A person is a creation of the result of the 5 senses. Basically, the world is a creation of the mind. Now, if we take an example, trying to understand this principle, we see a picture through our eyes. And when we see a picture, the mind takes that and the sense, it takes a picture and gives a value to that. If you see a person, he will say, that is your mother. Now, who is a mother? Then we get the value into our minds. The value creates perceptions in us. This is my mother. She is at home. She is a housewife. She is a teacher. And she belongs to me. So those perceptions, which is created by our mind, is created by these 5 senses. By listening, by seeing, by touch, by taste, yes. And can you tell me the other one, someone?
By sense.
By sense. That is, you see something, you hear something, you taste something, you feel something. What is the other one?
You hear something.
Friends, you hear something.
You hear something.
So those 5 senses will create a perception in our minds and will create a value to that and give you a word, give you a home, give you a vehicle, a car, a house, your jobs, everything. All those perceptions are made in your mind, and because of that, we think that we have a world within ourselves. You and I is the world, and that is being created by the mind. So the mind gets all that through our five senses. So we are actually, we cannot get out of these five senses. We have to be with these five senses, understand our mind, and understand this reality. So this is also one of the important principles of our Vishwaprani spiritual healing community.
So basically, every detail that we capture with our five senses is a creation of our mind.
Yes, exactly, Dashi. It is a creation of our mind, and through the mind only that we can ultimately understand the true reality of this. We can come into this emptiness, the emptiness of our consciousness is through mind only we can understand. Now let us talk about the fourth principle. That is the human being relative to the world, and the world relative to the human being is a conceptual consciousness movement. When you talk about that, it may sound very heavy, but we will try to explain that in a brief way. And I think our Shamika would like to give some idea into that.
Yes, Bhagya. Actually, everything in this world is relative. Actually, we feel sound because of a difference in between the sound and silence. And also we feel tasty and non-tasty because of difference in between tasty and non-tasty. So everything in this world exists in duality. So we admire smile or happiness because of the pain of tears. So likewise, everything in this world is relative. So that I think that is the main concept behind this fourth principle.
Yes, that is a good example given by Shamita. Actually, in this principle, we are talking about the relative relation between two existence, because one cannot exist without the other. There's no single point of existence. There's no, anything cannot exist by itself. It can exist with another, with a correlation with another being or another material. So there's always two things together. Two things should be there to have this interrelation and for the existence. So I think maybe our Rajitha or Hareendra might have some idea or some knowledge which they can share with us in this principle.
Yes, Rajitha, you can add some points.
Nothing exists
Without the other.
without the other. Nothing exists itself.
It is always a relationship, and there is correlation always builds up. If you want to clap, you need two hands. You can't just clap with one hand. There's no sound. If you want to smell something, you have to eat something. Then you have to taste it. You have to see it. So through that, you create an existence and interrelationship between the human and the world. So the world is just not created by itself. It's created by an interrelation interaction. So I think Hareendra, you now can relate that to our consciousness, because the consciousness is created through these interrelationships.
Yes, indeed.
Right? So actually it is a conscious movement. This relation is relative, the world and the human, or the world and the self, is a conscious movement which is created through interrelationship interaction. I think that explains about our fourth principle. And now we would like to go to the fifth principle, which is the world is empty. Actually, that would be the most difficult one to explain, even though it's said in just one sentence and few words. Emptiness cannot be taken into words, or it cannot be taken into a concept. If you take into a concept, that is not emptiness. Then you are coming to the reality again. Anyone can speak about that?
Also add something for that.
Yes,
I
sir.
think spirituality is getting close to the essence of a person. So after all, the essence of a person is emptiness.
Actually, if the world is empty, so that means, do you mean by the person a person is giving the meaning to the world as their experiences or knowledge. So, is that the thing you mean?
Actually, emptiness cannot be said by the knowledge or through an experience. Am I right?
Yeah,
Hareendra?
actually there is no explanation for emptiness. Emptiness means emptiness. That's it.
You cannot say it by words. You cannot say it by experience. Or
Actually, we can explain
Understand.
as a concept, but it is emptiness means emptiness.
You put into words.
Yes.
If you put a meaning, there's nothing in it.
There's nothing here.
At the very moment we try to elaborate the word emptiness,
We are coming
It's not
back to the reality again. So, with this, I think we have covered the 5 principles of Vishwaprani spiritual community, 5 philosophies.
Okay, then we will wind up the today discussion and we will meet you in another useful session. And till that, I bow. Sarana.